Hello and welcome to another pattern recognition video where I'll have at least 10 puzzles for you to solve dealing with endgame tactics, which are pretty important to focus on. A lot of times people will neglect endgame study. And if you're not familiar with pattern recognition, you basically want to solve a series of puzzles and you go over them more than once. That way you don't just forget the tactics and patterns that you'll see. And hopefully you'll remember them better and be able to use them in your own games. So if we take a look at this first problem, it looks like this rook, I think it moved up here, targeting our rook. So, what do we do here? We probably have to ask ourselves, what would happen if we just take and their king takes? That might give us time to push our king forward, and then it gets a little bit tricky. So it's really good to work on end games like this, and you have to be careful when you go into a pawns only end game because there can be a lot more calculation than you think. So if we take their rook and then they recapture and we move our king up here to h4, it really depends on what they do next. If they move their king here, let's see, it looks like we could just move up and then they have to back away. That'll give us time to move forward. Our goal is to get our king up here somewhere and push their king away from the defense of this pawn using opposition. And, if the king has to run away, we should be able to pick this off. So let's see how it works out here. We move our king up. Now, this is an issue here we have to be careful with, because if we just go here and they move here, it's a trebuchet position where we can't move back down to defend our pawn because their pawn is covering that square, and we would be kicked away from the defense of our pawn. So we don't want to go there. We probably want to go here, and we grab the opposition from the side, with 3 squares in between the kings. The way the opposition works, for any beginners that are not familiar, you want to put an odd number of squares in between you and the opponent's king with their turn to move, so they have to move away from you. So if we go there, now we can attack their pawn, but what's the best way to do it? If we go here, they can go there, and once again we're in that trebuchet position where we kind of get flung away from the defense of our pawn. So I'm thinking we have to go here, because then if they go there, we can just move down and put them in the trebuchet position. So we go there. Now we drop back, defending our pawn and attacking theirs, so we can grab their pawn, then move out of the way, and our pawn will promote. So, that was a little trickier than it looked. And I have the rating set at 1500 to 2200. And if you're below that rating level, you can still try these and see how you do. And that's another reason to go over puzzles more than once. You might have problems the first time, but then once you see it again, you'll be familiar with some of the patterns. All right, on to puzzle number 2. A rook is just captured here, attacking our rook. So, what do? You want to look at the material maybe. It looks like they have 4 pawns versus our 3, but these 2 are doubled, so it's harder to get them moving. You would have to get rid of this before you could even think about moving these pawns forward. Also, the king could try and head up here and maybe go after that and promote this pawn. So we have to ask ourselves, what could we do if we take once again and they take, and we start moving our king up, then we might have an option to try and go after this pawn, or this one. So take, we move this king up, and now he's going to have to move back, I guess, here to try and defend. So we may be able to pick off one of these pawns. But, should we go after these pawns or try to head up here and get this pawn promoted? So that's the question. So let's take a further look. Capture. And then what? We can't go here because of this pawn covering that. So, we're kind of forced to go there. And then if the king moves back to where it was, we could go there and grab the opposition. But then if he moves here, we could take this, but then he could kind of just step over and grab the opposition from us. And our king would have to back up. So I think they probably want us to take this because it pulls their king off to the side. And then maybe the best move is that, unless there's some kind of trick. I mean, this is pretty forcing where we go here, and if they take, we go up here and attack the pawn. Maybe try and pick this off and promote that. So, this is what I mentioned oftentimes, how if you go into an all-pawn endgame, it can be way more complicated. All right, to keep this moving along, I'll go ahead and do that because I was pretty sure that's what they wanted to start this. And then we can either move our king forward or try something like this. I mean, this is really forcing. The only option the opponent has is to capture, because if not, we capture, and then promote. So if we go there, they're forced to take. Then we're going to have to move in front of that pawn, probably capture it. So 1, 2 to capture, 3 we move here, 4 we take this, 5 to get out of the way, and then 6, 7, 8 to promote. I mean, that's a lot of moves. In the meantime, our opponent could possibly have gone from, let's see, maybe this way. 1, 2, 3, move out of the way, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves as well. All right, I'm going to go with this. This is pretty tricky. Oh, they don't even want that. So maybe they just want us to get our king moving forward. Okay, so now there's the issue with this. If they go there, we can't even defend anymore because of these pawns covering those squares where we could defend that. So, what do we do about that? It could take us, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to promote that pawn, and it would take him 1, 2, 3 to move out of the way, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so maybe we do it that way. Yeah, now we just promote first, and we should be winning easily. All right, on to puzzle number 3. Okay. Wow, all pawns to begin with here. So if there's a race, they're going to promote in 2, and it's going to take us 4 moves to get this pawn moving. So we definitely have to go after this pawn. But it looks like, we have to decide, do we go there? And then he has to move here to defend it. Unless he tries to go after this pawn to stop it, and while we're worrying with this pawn, he could maybe move around. Well, he can't stop this pawn unless he takes out the base of the pawn chain. Unless we move this pawn, then it's vulnerable. Okay, so I think the first thing we have to do is go after this pawn. And we have to go there. Oh, apparently not. Okay. What the heck? They want us to just move this pawn immediately, I guess. Huh. Now, why didn't he... Well, I guess he can still go there. But now we're going to be able to move forward. Now we have to stop him, so we go there. Huh. But then this pawn is unstoppable. Huh. I don't know, that took a little different turn than I expected, and that just shows you once again how complicated these all-pawn endgames can be. All right, on to puzzle number 4. Let's keep this moving along if I want to do 10 puzzles today. All right. And feel free to leave comments if there's anything you want to see specifically in future videos, a certain tactic, or any other type of videos. Just let me know in the comments. And like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. All right, what do we have here? The king stepped back here. Huh. All right. Why would he do that? It looks like he just gave up his bishop. I mean, we take that bishop. And then, I don't know, that doesn't make sense. He goes here. We're trying to push our pawn forward. I mean, now we can just take this. I mean, I guess he's going to push this forward, so he's going to go here. But that doesn't make sense. Our pawn is going to promote, so I don't know. It looks like we just take that. Okay. But now we don't want to take that pawn with our bishop because it's protecting our pawn. But now we can push this forward. If he goes here, we can just swing over here and cover the promotion square. Oh, wait a minute. If we move that pawn, he can just take our bishop too. So, wow, that's a little tricky, huh? Okay, I guess we have to move down and protect this with our king to free up our bishop. So if we go there and he goes there, then we can bring this down. Huh, okay, yeah, now we'll just be winning. We're covering this, and we can start pushing our pawn up and just win easily. All right, on to puzzle number 5. Okay, what do we have going on here? The bishop is attacking that, which is unprotected, so... Man, if we just go there, the bishop could go here and lock our pawns up, and it's protected by their pawn. We can't do anything over there, and then he can just start moving this around. So I'm thinking we have to do something like this. But does that work? If we go there and he takes, if we take, his bishop will recapture. So we have to push forward. I think, yeah, there's no way he can stop us. If he goes there, we just take his bishop. All right. So now we just push forward and we promote first. If he goes here, what do we do then? If he goes there, I guess we could maybe drop over and just cover the queening square. But anyway, we have a queen, and that should be enough. I mean, also we have checks on the king, so it's not looking good for our opponent. All right, on to puzzle number 6. The king was in check by the queen. It steps over, and now what? Let's look at the material. Okay, we have 2 pawns. They have 2 pawns and a bishop, but we both have the queens, and it's our turn. So how can we take advantage? All right. Well, looks like we can fork the king and the bishop. So if we do that, the king definitely doesn't want to go here, or we can deliver a mate. So he'll have to step over to the C file. All right, let's take a look at this. So, I mean, that looks to be the obvious move. We just fork the king and the bishop. If we pick that bishop off, though, one problem that I don't like is if this pushes forward. Okay, so we fork the king and the bishop. The king has to move. I don't know, say he goes here. If we pick that off and this pawn pushes forward to here, well, now there's a... Well, I guess there's not a checkmate threat because if the queen won't be able to go here because our queen will be here after having captured the bishop. It'll be covering that square. But the problem is this pawn will be ready to promote. So check, king moves. If we pick that off, he goes here, threatening to push that pawn. Or he could even move his queen, but we would be able to cover it. Anyway, let's make this move. Oh, wow, they don't want that. Did I miss something better? Perhaps a check to the king? Is there something better like this? We attack their queen. We threaten to take this. Maybe we go here. And I should have mentioned this. You definitely want to take a look at all the checks, captures, and threats before you make a move. And I didn't really do that there because I just thought, oh, that's the natural move. It's to fork the king and the bishop. But apparently there's something better. If we go there, we check. Maybe there's a way. Okay, the king would have to move. Wow, I mean, I don't know. That looks to be the only other move is to check the king over here. Then what? Hmm, king can only go here or here. Because remember, when a king is in check, there are three or less options. Capture the checking piece, which can't be done there. Block. There's no way to block the queen from this attack, or run. So the king would have to run, and he can only go to c8 or e8. And oh wow, okay, it is pretty forcing. If we go there, yeah, he can only go there, and then we can pick off the queen. We can go there, skewering the king and queen. All right, yeah, I definitely should have taken a look at all that. So we go there. Now we can just pick that off, and we're behind the passed pawn. We're threatening to take this one with a check. So wow, okay. Good lesson there. Definitely take a look at all checks first. Okay, king has stepped over. 3 pawns versus 3. He's targeting our pawns, and they're just going to start falling here if the king just starts going after those. He does have that, but we can stop that pawn from promoting. So I think we need to turn our attention to these pawns. We have a pawn majority, and often you want to push the unopposed pawn, but here, of course, they could just take. Oh, or can they? Hold on, maybe it's not as easy as I thought. Once again, pawn endings are way more complicated than they appear to be. So, first we can look at this. If I push there and he takes, of course, if I retake, he'll just capture with the king, and that's not good for us. So, what if he takes here with his pawn and I push this one, and then he tries to take? I mean, I guess I could push here and he wouldn't be able to stop that. We'd get a queen. So let's go with that. Now I have to take a look. Do I go here? Does that work? I mean, if he goes there, it doesn't work because once we go there, he'll be able to control the queening square. So we have to push there. Now we have to stop and prevent that from promoting. But now there's no way he can get into the square of the pawn. If you're not familiar with that, you just draw a line from the pawn to the edge of the board where you're trying to promote. Then you just make a square like this. So the king has to get into this square, which he can't because of his pawn in the way. All right, if he can get into that square, he'll be able to stop the pawn from promoting here. All right, we're almost done. Problem number 8. So what's happening here? The king has stepped over, maybe with the threat of going here. If we capture, he captures, and then he has a pawn here that can run towards promotion. So what we have to figure out is, I mean, this looks pretty good. We could just knock that thread out. And then we're keeping an eye on this. We could also threaten to go back up here, take, and then promote the other pawn. Or should we do that right away? It would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to promote. It would take this 1, 4, but if we took, I think we have to take this. All right. So now What do we do next? Do we stop here? Because as I said, it would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to promote that. It would take him 1, 2, then 6 total moves to promote that. So I think we're going to go for it. All right, we promote first, and it's still a little tricky. I mean, he goes there, he's 1 square away. So what we have to do is use our queen to start attacking the king and kind of push it in front of its pawn. And we might have to do that multiple times to try and give us time to work our king down here, to help attack this pawn that'll be here. All right, on to puzzle number 9. What do we have here? The bishop is blocking the path of this rook, which could have gone here, guarding this pawn, attacking this pawn. So now we do have something else to consider. What if we take and they take? They'll have 3 passed pawns. We'll have 2. If we start pushing this one, can he stop both if he takes this? We go here, he won't be able to get into the square of the pawn. The one issue will be if he starts pushing all his passed pawns, can our king hold them off in time? I think so. So we go there, we just start pushing. All right, do we have to move in the center? That's the question. Because he could go here. We would have to go there. Or he goes there now. Okay, I think we'll just keep pushing. All right, now we have to go there. But we're going to get that queen. All right, I think... Oh, we do have a promotion with a check, and that really helps. So, I think we have to go there. And then this saves us, the promotion with the check. Because now he'll be in check. Will he pick this off or will he go down here to help protect his pawns? But either way, we'll be able to chase him around and we can get our... Man, this is kind of tricky. We could get our queen to work its way down here and guard this promotion square. And then maybe try and move our king up here. And then it'll cover both of these squares, both of these promotion squares. So yeah, another example of these pawn endgames being pretty tricky. Okay, the final puzzle, number 10 here. Bishop has just what? Stepped over here attacking our knight. What do we do about that? Something forcing might be, do we take their bishop with our rook? If they capture, we're covering that pawn from being able to move forward. Or do we ignore all that, start pushing our pawn up here, trying to promote? And that's why the bishop probably moved here, to attack that knight, which is covering this square, so the rook can't get behind the passed pawn, which is always a good, well, usually a good strategy. All right. So what if we take and they take and we push forward? Well, then the rook could go up this way and guard the promotion square. Hmm. So yeah, another tricky one. Or do we just push immediately? I mean, if we go there, he takes, we take, he gets behind the passed pawn. Oh, but then we could move here, blocking it, and we're protected by this pawn. So I'm just going to go ahead and move. All right, yeah, now we're just protecting that passed pawn. And he doesn't have time for the king can't get the pawn, and this guy can't go here and then here, because if he goes here, we push. If he goes here, well, then we can just push again. He'll have to get rid of his rook for that promoted pawn, and then we'll be up a rook. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed these puzzles. Some of these were a little trickier. Like I said, feel free to leave comments, with whatever you have to say. If you got a request for something you want to see in the future, or just anything that you would like to say. I enjoy listening to, viewers and subscribers, and I try to answer everybody. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.